Hi, welcome. I want to talk to you about the profit triangle. It's something that I introduced very near the beginning of any workshop that I run. Workshop is something where you have to engage people. They're not sitting in a lecture, falling asleep sometimes. You've got to get them to start thinking and making a contribution. So the profit triangle is a good way to do that. But not only that, it's something that managers should be walking around, business owners should be walking around in their business and looking at the business through this profit triangle and asking themselves, what can they do to increase profits? So what I do is, when I've got the guys settled down, and we've covered a few introductory matters, but then I say, all right, imagine you've got a business. It's not the business that you work for. It's a business. So let's talk generically now. So I introduced them to the profit triangle. There it is. Margins, that's the difference between your selling price and your cost price. Volumes, the physical measure of what's being sold. So that could be goods per unit, or it could be hours if you're providing a service, and then the expenses or the overheads. And the way I then approach this is to say to the people in the group, right, you're in a business. Doesn't matter what sort of business it is. Let's talk general. What can you do to increase profits? And then I wait for them to engage. And you'll get things like, well, we could increase the selling price. Well, you could well increase the selling price and increase your profits. However, there are certain factors that need to be considered. Let's say that you have a supermarket and you have a shopper that has the biggest trolley available, piled up this high. They're going up and down the aisles, and they get to that section in the shelves, the racks, where every month they buy a plastic container of salt. It has cost for the last few months 10. They don't know that because people can't remember all those things. But now the price is 12. That's an increase of 20%, you capitalist bastard. But anyway, what happens? Well, they take it and move on. Because in the context of the budget that they have, they don't worry about these small things. Now, the next thing is, consider your customers. There's that type of customer. But what if you have a customer that goes through the aisles, carrying a basket, being very careful about the money that they spend, and they now get to the salt, no longer 10, but 12. No, wait. If I lay out that extra 2, then I can't buy something else, which I'm going to eat. So therefore, they don't buy the salt. So you lose that volume there. So that's about pricing. Of course, it's not just the price of the product. What about the cost of the product? Because some people will suggest to me, well, we'll reduce our costs. Which cost? The cost of the products we buy. How will you do that? We'll buy in bulk, negotiate much lower prices. Fine. Buy in bulk is a problem. First of all, you have this bulk inventory now on your premises. And what happens is that if your business is in an overdraft situation, well, you're paying interest on all that stuff in your stores. In addition to that, there are risks. When things are around for longer, they can get damaged, stolen, they become obsolete, particularly in technology items. So maybe you'll never be able to sell them. So that's something that we could do, but we need to consider the costs that we can calculate and evaluate the risks that we're faced with. Increased volumes. Well, we've spoken about prices, we've spoken about reducing costs, but how do we increase volumes? How do we sell more? Well, we may well have to spend money on training our salespeople, or we may have to spend money on advertising. But more about that in part 2 of this profit triangle video. So, but we don't know. That's what we'll be looking at. Cut costs. What? In the overheads. Which overheads? Well, you see, overheads are also what we refer to as fixed costs. You see, up here in the up there in this area, these costs accumulatively are variable costs, depending on the volumes that you've sold. But when you sell more or less, your expenses here are going to remain the same. So what can we do about these expenses? Well, apart from looking at every single unit of money that we have to sell, looking at it very carefully, what are we getting for that? This is not an easy area, because where do you cut costs? Get rid of people, retrench them. Well, you could, but then who does the work that's remaining? What happens when you retrench people is, yes, you are reducing costs, but problem is it affects morale within the company. Some companies reduce or retrench people under the guise of reorganizing to have a better company and operation. Yeah, okay. But sometimes it has to be done. As long as we remember that when retrenching, it affects morale amongst the staff, even those that aren't even being retrenched. It could also affect our company reputation. People don't want to come and work for us if we're constantly going through cycles of retrenchment. So we need to be careful there. And then what happens when the economy picks up and now we need more staff? We need some of those managers that we retrenched. Recruitment costs, these are not cheap. Training costs, cost of mistakes that new people make. Very often, those costs are greater than the cost that we save by retrenching people in the short term. All right, thank you for watching this. If you want to see part 2 of this video, then please subscribe so that when it comes out, it won't be long, then you're able to catch up and see the rest of the story here. Thank you.